Before it even released, the FNAF Ultimate Guide 2.0 became infamous in the FNAF theorist community due to this migraine. Did we all collectively just forget this? Is this a reverse Mandela effect, or I guess a regular Mandela effect? But no, it wasn't. It couldn't have. What? But now that the book has hit store shelves and we can see that Chica's secret party really is in the book, I think we should take a closer look at this guide. Now, before we get into this, I want to preface that the FNAF guidebooks have a bit of a reputation for being unreliable with a lot of mistakes. Exhibit A. Like the other Phantom animatronics, Phantom Foxy shows signs of fire damage, with most of his fur missing. He's in a worse state than Withered Foxy, as his hook hand has gone astray. And in FNAF 3, his hook hand has gone astray. Luckily, the Ultimate Guide 2.0 isn't quite as bad as the character encyclopedia, but there's still enough that I will be dedicating an entire segment to their mistakes. I also want to say that I won't be listing every single important piece of information from this book. I know, I lied. I used a clickbaity video title to trick you into watching a video about a book. How dare I? Truth be told, my notes I wrote whilst reading this go on for just over 20 pages. I also may have annoyed one of my friends with me texting them about every 5 minutes about this book. Yeah, sorry about that. So to prevent this video from going on for 3 hours, I will just be going over what I think are the most important bits of information. If you guys, gals and MB pals saw anything that I missed, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll make a part 2. Anyway, let's get straight into it, starting with one of the FNAF 1 fan theories on page 14. Still others look to the Foxy Go 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 minigame in FNAF 2, see page 31. Was an out of order sign and a functional animatronic the perfect way to lure kids to an isolated area, or was Foxy decommissioned because, per the gameplay around Withered Foxy in FNAF 2, he isn't fooled by a person in an animatronic suit? This is reused from the original Ultimate Guide, and whilst Foxy Go 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 doesn't actually have an out of order sign, I'm willing to put that down to stylistic choice. I think I lean more towards the latter of the explanations the book gives us, as whilst I'm sure William Afton would be looking to kill more children in the reopened FNAF 1 location, I think it's a pretty common belief in the community that the MCI happens prior to FNAF 1 and 2, especially with it happening in 1985 in multiple books and the Into the Pit game. Speaking of Foxy Go Go Go, quote from the FNAF 2 fan theories page. On a final disturbing note, the models for the dead children are different from game to game, supporting theorists' claims that there could be 4 unique sets of victims. Assuming this were true, who would the 4th set actually be? Take Cake was confirmed in FNAF 6 to be Charlotte Emily, and whilst it's debated if the Save Them victims possess the toys or not, it's widely referred to as the Dead Children's Incident. Presumably Give Gifts, Give Life would be the missing children's incident victims, so that would leave only Foxy Go Go Go. I always assumed that it was another look at the MCI, GGGL acting as the aftermath of this minigame. So the idea that this is its own incident, emancipated from the MCI, is especially interesting to me. The only idea I have is that the FNAF 1 animatronics whose souls are set free in Happiest Day are a separate group from the souls set free from Martin Freddy in the FNAF 6 Fire, which would have so many implications to the lore. Let me know if you guys have any ideas on what the 4th group could be, because if this were to be true, I have no idea. Again, this is in the fan theory section, so that doesn't actually mean it's canon or confirmed, but to me it makes it worth giving at least a second look. The next thing I'd like to bring up comes in regards to the code used to enter the Stage 01 minigame in FNAF 3. 395248 is also shown in FNAF Ruin. This could be an employee ID number or a serial number. Maybe one day we'll find out. I don't have much to speculate on, since this seems kind of like Shadow Freddy being hinted as coming back in the game down the line in the character encyclopedia, but if I were to guess, this could perhaps be Vanessa's ID number. Maybe if we get a sequel to Security Breach or a game explaining how Mexis was installed and M2 trapped before Ruin, we could maybe play as Vanessa and use her ID to enter a dilapidated Pizzaplex. Throughout the FNAF 4 chapter, the Ultimate Guide 2.0 refers to this establishment in the minigames as a Freddy's restaurant and as a pizzeria, so I guess it is confirmed. Crying Child died in a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Fredbear's Family Diner. Speaking of FNAF 4, the book also implies that all the yellow text in the 906 minigame is one speaker. One thing that I thought was a little odd though, was that the chapter neglected to discuss dream theory. I guess the writers don't have quite the same level as unbiased as we theorists have. That, or they understand that if Scott so much as acknowledges someone's breath,
that breath becomes canon, and you bet that breath has some dark truths. The dark truth of the breath of 87, so the tyrant.
You think I'm kidding, don't you? Now for the part that you all clicked on this video for, the game that has driven theorists crazy for months on end. Midnight Motorist. I never said how many months. After just over 98 months, it has finally been confirmed that Junior's is a restaurant called Junior's.
What? I see this as an absolute win.
With the exception of a lot of talk about the importance of Remnant and how information around its usage in the books could be important for the games, I am so proud of you, Ultimate Guide 2.0. I am so very proud. You spread that book truth. There's not a whole lot of new theorizing ground until Help Wanted, as it discusses the indie developer. Mystery solved, but one question still remains. Which games is she, Tape Girl, referring to? Theorists have a few ideas. All FNAF games up to now. While this theory was popular upon the release of Help Wanted, most fans have since discredited it. The 8-bit minigames. FNAF 2 to 4 and Sister Location feature a variety of 8-bit minigames that seemingly tell the truth about the horrific murders at the various FNAF locations. These games could certainly fit the bill. FNAF World. FNAF World has been ruled as existing outside of FNAF's canon, but that doesn't necessarily mean the game as a game isn't canonical. I won't go into the indie games here out of interest of time, but I wanted to call out the comment on FNAF World since, as far as we are aware, FNAF World is canon. Scott Cawthon famously has a strange definition of canon, so what I think the book means is that Freddy Fazbear isn't literally strolling around attacking vegetation and killing God. In fact, this seems somewhat in line with my theory on FNAF World, in which I said that Cassidy was being directed by the puppet to help crying child's soul reach happiest day. Admittedly, I couldn't actually say Cassidy because of the rules of FNAF Simplified, and I implied it was less a literal video game and more ghost magic. It was a fail, don't worry about it. Throughout Help Wanted and Special Deliveries fan theory pages, the Ultimate Guide 2.0 seems to be proposing that Vanessa, Vanny and Tape Girl are all one and the same. Maybe this is just me, but I've been assuming that we play as Vanny in Help Wanted and the Cursed Dreadbed DLC due to the cutscene with the Vanny mask, and since I believe Vanny and Vanessa are the same person, that would mean we play as Vanessa. Besides, Tape Girl is the one who left us the tapes. We are following her instructions. After all, presumably we're playing after development has been transferred to a different studio, Silver Parasol Games. And again, this is under fan theories, but it's an interesting idea. Speaking of Vanny, Special Deliveries entry says that, in general, animatronics arrive cloaked in patented anim stealth technology and will not be visible. This may be common knowledge to people who have played Special Delivery. However, I have an Android phone, so I couldn't play it. If you've read The Fourth Closet, however, you may remember Charlie's earpieces that she modified to make the wearer invisible to animatronics. Anim Self seems to be a similar idea to this, only in reverse. And no, I don't mean illusion discs. Illusion discs alter how you see something, how you perceive it, most notably making the twisted animatronics looking organic and realistic. The earpieces are a separate technology altogether. How this links to Vanny is that I think this is how she's able to make herself invisible to Glamrock Freddy in Security Breach. Am I using a throwaway mention in a guidebook to trick you into listening to me yap about the novel trilogy? Yes, and I will do it again. Now I want to share with you a bit of a conspiracy I have, and I need your guys' help to investigate. I mentioned earlier that the Ultimate Guide 2.0 reuses and alters parts of the previous Ultimate Guide, which covers FNAF 1 through AR, the Silver Rose trilogy, and Fazbear's Frights. Now a few years back, the Security Breach file was released, which is where my conspiracy theory comes in. The tone of Security Breach's chapter is drastically different from the rest of the Ultimate Guide 2.0, going from a walkthrough with a few quips here and there, and a small dose of light speculation to something more comparable to a children's magazine article. I'm not saying this to try and insult the writers, this genuinely reads like something out of 110% Gaming, complete with the corny jokes and fully capitalizing words so the reader understands that it's urgent. Because exclamation points don't exist. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with this, but one, This is such a drastic change of writing to the point where you can actively see where they switch writers towards the end of the chapter. I'm like 99% sure it's page 215 that they switch back to the regular writers. They might switch back to the security breach files for the ruin walkthrough, but it's less in your face, so I'm not too sure. And 2, the walkthrough is all over the place. It goes from Gregory meeting Glamrock Freddy, to getting the entry pass, to seeing Vanny from a charging pod, to the daycare level, to going to the loading dock and prize counter choice. Which, apart from missing a few points, which is absolutely fine, the book can't go on forever, this is just not quite the order of events. Last time I checked, we didn't leave the daycare before even going to the daycare. I don't know if this is a writing error or something went wrong whilst editing and it got lost in the other 400 pages or what. This really feels like something that should have come up in proofreading. If anyone owns a copy of the Security Breach files, please let me know if they did just copy and paste it over, because this just doesn't read like the rest of the book. This may not be the greatest book on the earth, as you all know that's in the flesh, but it doesn't read like the script to a TikTok skit like anime. Malfunctioning animatronic contractions have joined the hunt. If they catch up with Gregory, it's game over. Ooh woo. The only part of that I changed was that it didn't say ooh woo. Everything else is exactly how it's written, pauses and all. Now I know I rage baited you all earlier about it, but it's finally time to talk about Chica's secret party. Oh boy. Technically everything here is new information and therefore noteworthy by default. But I'm going to entrust that you have heard other theorists talk about this before. For those who don't know, Chica's Secret Party is supposedly a hidden game that was available for 3 days in 2016 on scottgames.com, in which you could play as toy Chica feeding cupcakes to babies, avoiding shadow figures, and encountering a few familiar faces from FNAF lore, such as Deskman from FNAF World and Gordon Freddy. Except for the fact that no such game exists. Chica's Party World was in the source code of the Scott Games website in 2016, but, correct me if I'm mistaken, it was there for more than 3 days and it didn't lead to anything. Currently, it's believed to either be a troll by Scott Cawthon, or something that is yet to pay off, and with Scott recently dodging the mention of Chica's Secret Party in his Dorco charity livestream, I lean more towards it just not paying off yet, or else we have yet to figure it out. Unfortunately, I don't think I've actually discovered anything new, but there's a good chance that I'll do a video on this in the future. There's the rather obvious connection to Midnight Mirrors, with one of the only images for the game being a recreation of the back of the Later That Night house, footprints and all, as well as the possibility that the animatronics in Chica's Party parallel the characters in Midnight Mirrors. We have a couple of grey sprites that we know very little about, Gordon Freddy, who, if you believe Bite Victim Runaway and that he possesses Gordon Freddy after the Bite of 83, would represent the Crying Childs here. Fredbear is often associated with Henry, and Bonnie is usually associated with William Afton, but as we all know,
Toy Chica is William Afton.
shadow figures are rather common game enemies, but I would imagine these shadows would be Shadow Freddy and Rick Faseska. Shadow Bonnie. Also, I'm unsure if this is important or not, but certain rooms need a specific item. For example, in the master bedroom you have to give a top hat to a yellow hand poking out from beneath the bed to get cupcakes. The order of which rooms you complete in which order may be important, however, since we can't play Chica's Secret Party, we currently have no way to actually know. And the last point that I'd like to go over before we go over the mistakes in this book concerns the Silver Eyes trilogy. Quote, "Since the first book went into print, debates have raged among fans about how the books tie into the games. But one thing isn't in question. The books introduced many elements that later appeared in the game, from minded technology up to the name of the universe's central villain, William Afton. Technology cross over between the books and games. Springlock suits in particular feature heavily in both. We saw the idea of making someone or some place invisible to an animatronic in both FNAF 3 and the Fourth Closet. The illusion discs and the twisted ones may have a place in the games as well, one possibility being the nightmare animatronics in FNAF 4.
Let's go! Illusion discs are canon. Suck it! Yeah, I told you. You don't know how long I have been preaching the good words of the illusion discs. I was right.
So that second quote was from the fan theories page. However, I think it's still good supporting evidence to the earlier quote which was in the opening of the chapter. I know people still don't like using the books for evidence, But, first off, I said the same thing with the Twisted Ones being a major source for FNAF 2 movie, and let's face it, that was one of the only things that any of us got right, since we were working off the basis of movies typically having 3 acts. And secondly, throughout the books we keep getting the repeated themes of animatronics with some form of illusion, whether that be discs, gas, or fashion accessories, humans and animatronics switching places, and AI going drastically wrong. That last one is likely partially commentary on real life, but in the case of the Tales from the Pizzaplex books, it's also connected to the Mimic, and whatever you believe Glitch Trap is. There's even the possibility that we've already seen the illusion discs in such a location, and we know in the 4th closet that the Fun Times use illusion discs. Now, as I promised, every mistake I picked up in the Ultimate Guide 2.0. The FNAF 1 map shows Withered Foxy in place of Classic Foxy. Mango's icon is Classic Foxy, which is especially confusing since this means that they had the asset available for FNAF 1 map, they just didn't use it. Less a mistake and more an inconsistency, but all the icons on the FNAF 4 map only show the animatronics from the waist up, whilst Nightmare Freddy's show his full body. Not really a mistake, just a little annoying. Also not really a mistake, but I can't in good faith not mention that page 110 says that Ultimate Custom Night is the 7th and arguably most difficult of the FNAF games. I refuse to believe that anyone is claiming that there is a FNAF game in the franchise easier than 50-20 mode, 57-20 mode if you want to count Zor's hidden roster of surprises. I refuse. Page 147 says that Fazbear Entertainment is being bought out by another game studio. However, it was the game studio that Tape Girl works for that was bought out, not Fazbear. Fazbear Entertainment are the ones who were commissioning the VR game, not the ones who are actually developing it. Pages 198, 199, and 200 gets the order of the daycare level slightly wrong, saying you see Vanny before describing the generator mission in the daycare, after which it skips to Gregory having to choose between going to the prize counter or the loading docks. It also says that when Vanessa catches Gregory, he uses hiding spots and the cameras to elude her, before mysteriously losing conscience, which is completely incorrect. Slightly further into Security Breach's walkthrough, on page 204 it says 3 AM. Shortly into the 5th hour of this mess, Gregory faces another dilemma in the form of the Endos. If we start the game at about 11:30 PM, and we are now at 3 AM, math would dictate that we are 3.5 hours in, not 5. And if you mean real life gameplay hours, I don't know about you, but assuming I don't just torture your son for ages in the daycare, this would probably be around 3 or 4 hours in. So again, not 5. 5 is how long I've been playing by the time I finish the Endo Maze. Page 206 says that Monty falls into a pit at the end of his boss battle when he actually falls onto a stage in Monty Golf. The Glamrock Endoskeletons profile on page 216 uses the Endo 01 model from Special Delivery. Whilst discussing Eleanor, page 270 states that one of her signature moves is trapping her victims in the ball pit. As far as we know, outside of the confrontation with Jake and Larson, she hasn't actually used that ball pit from Into the Pit, or any other ball pit for that matter. Page 273 has a rather large contradiction around Escape the Pizzaplex. The fact that there are no human guards at the Pizzaplex suggests that this book takes place sometime after the all-staff meeting incident mentioned in Security Breach, when all adult staff were replaced by staff bots, but before Vanessa started as a Pizzaplex security guard. Pizzaplex upgrade. Since the event of Security Breach, the Pizzaplex has undergone some serious remodeling. Management has updated the security systems with more keypads and intercoms. You can never be too careful, right? So Escape the Pizzaplex happens before Vanessa is a security guard at the Pizzaplex, but after Security Breach, where Vanessa is the head security guard at the Pizzaplex. The Mimic story from Tales from the Pizzaplex's page says that it also leads up to the events of the game FNAF Secret of the Mimic. However, I am going to give this one a free pass since it is clear from Secret of the Mimic's entry that the writers were given very little information about the game, with the book most likely being written before the game had come out. On page 383, Jackie's profile shows a picture of Nurse Dolly instead of Jackie. Page 392 claims that Rockstar Chica is the only incarnation of Chica to not have a cupcake, despite there being a number of iterations of Chica who lack a cupcake, such as Glamrock Chica, Jacko Chica, and Wither Chica. And finally, on page 397, Trash and the Gang's entry says that Pan San appeared during the salvage sections of Pizzeria Simulator, if the animatronic had already entered the pizzeria. While similar in design, this sign has a wooden face, whilst Pan Stan's face is a pan. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. There's plenty more in the Ultimate Guide 2.0 to talk about. I still have all the book entries to talk about, not to mention a very interesting point it made about Purple Guy and Save Them. If there's anything you think I missed in the book, let me know down in the comments below, and consider subscribing, it means a lot and lets you know when I drop a part 2. Also, assuming I fix the stream issues, I should be live streaming Pizzeria Simulator on Saturday the 21st of February at 8 PM UK time, or 12 PM Pacific, 2 PM Central, or 3 PM Eastern times. Hope to see you there, and with that, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.